Hey guys, long time no see. Doing a quick podcast about certain film articles, journalism stuffs, and a couple of things that are just on my mind pertaining to the realm of film. This is Paul speaking in case you're new. Yeah, it's been a while. I said I was going to do more videos, but then I got a really good job and I worked my ass off. I've been going to film school for the past year, and over the summer I got a really good job working as a production assistant, and then I got a job working in the electrical department. So it was a lot of fun. I met a lot of great people. It was, yeah, just a lot of memes along the way. Sometimes movies aren't just about the movies you make, it's about the memes you make along the way. Alright, that's my life update. Let's just talk about random movie shit that's on my mind. Starting with Indiana Jones. Yes, Indiana Jones. He's back in another geriatric adventure. I love the Indiana Jones movies. All of them. Even that fucking Crystal Skull movie. Here's my breakdown of every Indiana Jones movie. First Indiana Jones classic, Raiders of the Lost Ark. Everything about it is a perfect movie. You got Sulla, great character. Awesome side characters, awesome villains. That guy with the glasses, the guy who eats a fly. That was yucky. And then you come to Temple of Doom, which many people don't like. Temple of Doom. Temple of Doom is not only my favorite Indiana Jones movie, it's probably one of my favorite movies of all time, and definitely my favorite Spielberg movie. It's a really weird movie. I think Spielberg was doing a little bit too much cocaine when that movie came out. I grew up reading Tintin comics, and Temple of Doom is really close to a Tintin comic to me. And there's some very dark moments, and I think Spielberg tries to balance the dark moments by adding some very silly, goofy characters like Short Round and Willie. So it's very tonally inconsistent, but that's kind of the charm of it. One second you're just laughing at how Willie is getting abused by an elephant, and then the other second there's a man getting his heart ripped out while women are getting tortured and children are being enslaved. It's a very weird movie. I love Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom. It's my favorite of the series. I don't care what none of y'all say. I still love it. I ain't saying it's a gold digger. Technically, Indiana Jones is a gold digger. Just artifacts. And then you come to Last Crusade. Last Crusade just ends the series off on a perfect note. They ride off into the sunset. A lot of people, they like to hate on Last Crusade now because Tarantino once hated on Last Crusade. He said it felt like Stop or My Mom Will Shoot. And I have one thing to tell that Tarantino. What the fuck is wrong with Stop or My Mom Will Shoot? It's a terrible movie. But I liked it. It was fun. It was goofy. It was campy. All the Indiana Jones movies are relatively campy. Every time they punch someone, then you have Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, and I don't like it as much. I'll still watch it. It's still a fun adventure movie. It's nowhere near as good as the original trilogy. I feel like the problems people have with that movie are not the same problems that I have with it. I feel like the problems with the movie is, as much as I love Harrison Ford, his heart was just not in it. He was kind of just sleepwalking the whole movie. His line delivery is so off. Yeah, it just feels weird, his performance in that movie. It doesn't feel like Indiana Jones. And I feel like Spielberg's heart as well wasn't in it. When people like to hate on Indiana Jones, they'll hate on the alien aspect of it. I don't mind the fact that Indiana Jones confronts aliens. If anything, I find it kind of badass and cool. Indiana Jones and aliens, two best things on the planet. But yeah, that's not the problem. And I don't hate Mutt as a character as much as most do. I think people were kind of sick of Shia LaBeouf at the time because he was screaming his ass off in those Transformers movies. I always liked that Disturbia movie. I always thought that was a fun little movie. So yeah, I feel like I do have my problems with Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. I feel like the CG is messy. I feel like Spielberg was kind of phoning it in. I feel like Harrison Ford didn't really have a good grapple on how the character should evolve. Yeah. Anyway, we come to the Disney fan-made film Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny. And first of all, I'm just fucking sick of time travel plots. They're boring to me now. Uh, I've seen too many of them. Now they have the Flash movie, time travels and creates an alternate universe, and I fucking need a Indiana Jones movie where he time travels. What is this? Disney, I know you're trying to get some past glory here, but enough of your characters time traveling. And it just looks like the same problems I had with Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, just a bit too much CG. Anyway, this movie is getting a mixed reviews. And I think it's because you're kind of stuck. It's hard to make another Indiana Jones movie because the first trilogy, it refers to like action serials of the 40s, fighting Nazis, the fadish punches, all that stuff. It's very campy, very B movie. And then with Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, they said, okay, what were the B movies of that era, the 50s? And there was the whole atomic panic, the Cold War, and they did a lot of stuff with that. A lot of the movies of the time dealt with aliens because there was rumblings that they were going to go into space. So a lot of tributes to movies like The Day the Earth Stood Still and movies with atomic energy being at the forefront of it. And I think Indiana Jones 5 works because that's it. The movies are still kind of the same. They just tackle different themes, and they did that transition kind of well to me. The problem I have is B movies from the 1950s on are just very sleazy. So very campy. 1940s, let's go punch the Nazis. In the 50s, let's go punch the commies. And then in the 60s and 70s, it's not really like that. You got the Vietnam War, which is a bit more of a controversial war, and you didn't really have media just being like, hey, let's go punch the Vietnamese. And then the B movies, they're just very trashy, which is what I like about them. Very sexual, very exploitive. And that kind of just doesn't fit the tone of an Indiana Jones. I don't want to see Deep Throat with Indiana Jones. Actually, I kind of do. Wouldn't be a bad film. I think they're trying to do something with blaxploitation. One of the characters in the film is like a badass black woman with an afro, and it kind of harpens back to like Coffee and Foxy Brown and those kinds of movies. Cleopatra Jones. So I feel like they are trying to like put those B movie elements of the 60s in there in the 70s, but it just doesn't work as well. So I think that's the problem. So they had no choice but to do this hackneyed plot where Indiana Jones time travels. And I think James Mangold, I do like him as a director. I love Logan. Logan is one of the best mainstream action movies of the past couple of years. I do think that. I just think he doesn't have that Spielberg-y charm to him. Spielberg is a very magical, whimsical guy, and I just don't see James Mangold as being that. And even if James Mangold is a very strong director, he has his hands kind of tied because he's working for Disney, the multi-conglomerate corporation in the business of manufacturing content. So it's kind of hard for a director's voice to prevail given those circumstances. It did get a little better in the Marvel movies. Guardians of the Galaxy 3 just felt like a James Gunn movie. So, yeah, it is what it is. That's because of a lack of oversight on Marvel's part. So you're getting these more director-oriented films, for better or worse. When I say worse, I'm talking about Thor: The Dark World. Yeah, I don't know. I'm going to refuse to watch it. If I do watch it, I'm going to watch it on, like, home video, if you know what I mean. Home video, where I procure it completely legally. But yeah, it just feels like all those Disney movies, the Star Wars movies, the Indiana Jones movie, whatever they fucking did with Willow, they don't feel like the movie. They don't feel like a sequel to the movie. They just feel like fan films to me. Like, to me, the Star Wars sequel trilogy is not a continuation of Episode 6. To me, it's just fan films. To me, Star Wars is very George Lucas. And you take the George Lucas out of Star Wars, it just ain't Star Wars. Same thing. To me, Indiana Jones is 3 elements. It's George Lucas, Steven Spielberg, and Harrison Ford. And you only got Harrison Ford, so you only got one of the three. And even though I do think Steven Spielberg dropped the ball in his direction in Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, you still got to bring him back. Especially nowadays, he's really been making some good films. I really like The Fabelmans, and I really liked his West Side Story remake. Yeah, I think that's the problem. It just feels a bit too dark, a bit too gloomy. I read some spoilers on the film, and I'm going to spoil the Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny, but Mutt dies in Nam. Yeah, that's what I want to see in my Indiana Jones movie. My son died in Vietnam. Now I need a time travel to fight some fucking Nazis. I don't know. Yeah. No Indiana Jones movie review if you're coming to me for that. Maybe somewhere down the line. It's just not my cup of tea. Little Mermaid. A lot of things went down with the Little Mermaid. As in it fucking crashed at the box office. It didn't crash. Right now it made $467 million at the box office, which is very surprising to me because the lead up to the movie was quite big. People were touting this as being a very important movie for the black community. It was a very important movie. Never in the history of cinema has there been a film with a black actress at the forefront. That's what Disney was saying. I don't know if I believe it, but it's weird because a lot of people were talking about The Little Mermaid, and it's just no one went to see it. 467 is not a terrible number, but I think Disney was expecting a little more from it, and these movies usually cost like $200 million. But that fucking Scuttlebutt song. We gotta do the Scuttlebutt. And I was like, with your wah, wah, with your wah, wah. Oh my god, who thought that was a good idea? Woof. I love Aquafina, but I was getting a little secondhand embarrassment for her. Yeah, when it comes to my thoughts on The Little Mermaid, the whole situation was blown out of proportion. And I think it's really the best possible outcome that it just didn't perform well. I think you had like two extremes on the internet, where one extreme was like a black woman can't be a Disney princess or can't be a mermaid, where I'm like, who gives a shit? It's just a movie made for children. Like, who cares if it's a black girl or a white girl? And then the other extreme of the internet where it was like, these poor black people, they have no one to look up to in their movies. Everything is riding on The Little Mermaid. And then there was like that TikTok montage of like kids like jizzing their pants at the fact that The Little Mermaid was black. Okay, I might be biased here. I have a couple of black friends. Granted, they're not really in the movie space. They're not like going on Reddit and 4chan like me, getting the scoops on film. I don't think anyone cared that The Little Mermaid was black. I honestly don't think anyone cared. I think only Twitter cared. But I literally don't know anyone on Twitter. In real life. I'm the only guy who's a lurker on the internet that I know. Most people are like, oh, Little Mermaid is played by a black woman? Oh, yeah. And they didn't care. And then they didn't see the movie because it looked bad. So, that's what I mean. I think a lot of studios are putting too much stake in the internet. Not many people are on the internet. I mean, they're on the internet, but they're looking at fucking how to make like a Nutella cake on Facebook. They're not like on Instagram saying that The Little Mermaid was brave and saved the lives of a million. I really hope people take that lesson. The internet is not real life, folks. No one is really what they are on the internet. It's all LARPing. We're all LARPing. No one cares about The Little Mermaid. And that's just fact because no one went to see it. A lot of people went to see it, but not enough to justify the production cost. This is going to end up probably losing money, if not making very little money, which isn't what Disney had hoped for. And I think it's not because The Little Mermaid is black. It's not because The Little Mermaid is white or Asian or whatever. It's just because Disney live action remakes, as well as most Disney movies, suck farts. They suck. They're boring. It's as simple as that. Numbers don't lie. Show me the numbers. Yeah, that's my thoughts on The Little Mermaid. I'm kind of happy. Hopefully this is a trend that dies, is these live action remakes that are very soulless. The guy who does the voice of Sebastian in this remake, he's a really good actor. But even him, I was listening to like a clip where he's singing Under the Sea, and it just feels very heartless. Anyway, next thing I want to talk about, The French Connection was in the news. Great film directed by the great William Friedkin. It's not one of my favorite William Friedkin movies. My two favorites are The Exorcist. I love The Exorcist, obviously. You'd be hard-pressed to find someone who doesn't like The Exorcist. It's an all-time classic. And I love Killer Joe. It's his last film. He went out with a banger. I love Killer Joe. It's such a trashy movie. It's so gross. It's so vile. I remember it was so controversial when it came out and they had that fucking KFC scene in it. Fucking giving a fellatio to a chicken leg. Yeah, it's just such a good movie. So French Connection, I like it quite a bit. It's not one of my favorite Friedkin movies. It does get a little bit too much hype in my opinion. It's not my cup of tea, to be honest. But anyway, it was in the news because Criterion censored it. Criterion's got their own streaming service called the Criterion Channel, and there's this part in the film where there's the use of the N-word, and it's kind of done in a joking way, but it's also like a way of showing what the characters are going through. The movie is about cops that are very short-fused and have a lot of PTSD, and there's a part where he says something like, I don't trust N-words, but it's kind of the punchline of a joke, but it's not like a ha-ha joke. It's more of like, this is what the characters are going through kind of thing. And just totally off topic. There's this great Sean Connery movie called The Offense, and it kind of has like a similar theme to The French Connection, but I think it's a much better film. If you haven't seen The Offense with Sean Connery, it's one of my favorite movies. You should watch it. I love this movie quite a bit. Anyway, I just said that because I was talking about cops with PTSD, and I thought of The Offense. Anyway, so what do I think of this? Should it be okay to censor media on streaming services? Well, the peak shill answer would be, well, it's a private company. They can do whatever they want. If they want to censor it, they can censor it. I hate it when people use that argument. Because just because a company does it doesn't mean it's right. Damn it! The only thing that matters is if I say it's right. That's the only thing that matters. Is I'm the judge, the jury, and the executioner. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. No, I think this is completely wrong. And again, I think it's an attempt to get some brownie points from Twitter. But I think people in the real world, outside of the cybernetic world, they know better. They know this is an old movie. They know that it's a product of its time. And not only that, but it's a somewhat accurate representation of what was going on in the time, what the police system was in the 1970s. I think enough people are able to understand that black or white, it's not up for debate. I think the use of the N-word in The French Connection is no less reflective of what was going on in police squads in the 1970s. I don't think people who worked for the force in the 1970s, they were saying, oh, that meanie weenie who just so happened to be an African-American gentleman. They weren't saying that. Unfortunately, they were dropping some hard R's back then. It just sucks. I know, it sucks. It's just the way it is. And it reminded me of another situation a couple years back on Disney+. There's the movie Splash with Tom Hanks and Daryl Hannah. And there's a scene where she runs into the ocean. We see her ass crack. Ooh. But then they put some CG hair on her ass. So when she's running into the ocean, the kiddos don't see her ass crack. And I'm watching that. And I'm like, holy crap, this mermaid has a hairier ass than me. What is going on with the world? But, yeah, it reminds me of that. Guys, just buy Blu-rays. Trust me. I used to live in New England. There's these chains of stores called Bull Moose. You can get a secondhand Blu-ray for like $6. Get a half-decent movie at that price. Go in the bargain bin of your local Walmart. You can get some good shit in there too. Physical media is the way to go because it's never going to change. That's if you really want to support the creators of the film. If you don't give a shit and you're worried about film preservation and you don't care about the artists making money, just fucking go on Pirate Bay. What do you want me to say? But don't watch the censored version. People are losing their minds. It's not that uncommon, you know. Back when movies used to play on cable, you'd watch Snakes on a Plane, and they'd be like, "I've had it with these monkeys flying snakes on this Monday to Friday plane." They used to do that. Just put some weird words instead of the swears. Yeah, so it's not that uncommon. I really thought it's just a weird situation because the reason why people back in the day people would censor films on cable is because you had advertisers, and advertisers didn't want I get it. It's like if you have a movie like The French Connection and you have that scene with the hard R in it, and then right after you got a Coca-Cola commercial or a Huggies commercial, it doesn't look too good for your company. I get it, but when you're on a streaming service, it's a bit different because you don't have advertisers unless Criterion is different. I don't have Criterion channel, but it should be a bit more leeway when it comes to that. But again, it's these companies, they don't do their market research. All they do is go on Twitter. That's their fucking market research. Again, no one is on Twitter. So, yeah. I think it was a mistake, especially from a big company like Criterion, which is all about film preservation and the importance and significance of the historical value of film, to censor a movie for having the N-word when it came out in the 1970s and is appropriate for the subject matter of the film. Complete mistake. Complete mistake. And I think they broke a bit of trust in their viewership when they do that. I don't know if the French Connection Criterion Blu-ray is going to be any different. I don't know if there is a French Connection Criterion Blu-ray. But yeah, just so stupid. What is this fucking meme world I'm living in? So many memes, so little time. What else do I want to talk about? Fast X. I watched Fast X. It sucked. Who would have thought? Fast X is a terrible movie. Yeah. That's all I can say about it. I laughed twice throughout the movie, and both times it was at the expense of the movie. The movie wasn't intentionally funny. The first time I laughed was right at the beginning, and where they were playing the production companies of the film in the credits, at the opening credits. It said an original film. The company was called Original. And I just thought it was funny because it was written an original film, and I knew I was watching Fast and Furious Part fucking 10. And that was the first time I laughed. And the second time I laughed, they're talking about, I think it was someone called Roman, or they were talking about like Rome, Italy, or something like that. And then one of the characters says, the only Rome you know is Roman noodles. And I was like, is that an actual line in the movie? Did someone actually... Think about it. It went through so many steps. Someone put pen to paper and wrote it down. Then it went through several drafts. Then an actor read it out loud. A director heard him say it and said, yeah, that's okay. And then it went into an editing room where an editor was like, oh, that line makes sense. And then producers watched the final product and heard that line and like, yeah, sure, let's keep it in. It went through so many steps of production, and through every step, no one thought to say that was an awful fucking line of dialogue. But yeah, overall, the movie, I'm not a big Fast and Furious guy. The first one I watched was Fast and Furious 9, so I was never really on board with the movies, but yeah, that's all I think about it. kind of like a 4 out of 10. Yeah. All right. I'll see you guys. That's all. Just a quick podcast. Hope you're all doing well. I miss you. Take care.